The answer is about, is this autonomic ganglion connected to the spinal nerve? No. Yes and no. The answer is it's going to be low. It's not going to be attached to the specific spinal nerve part like I've drawn, but it will be attached to the what we think of as a spinal nerve. So somewhat. You're going to learn how it is. Just for right now, think of it that way, and you're good. It's not going to work this way for cranial nerve autonomics. That would be different. This is a very simplified way of trying to explain it to you. But it's a good question. It'll be a little different. We'll learn about what these things are called later in the course. Yes, ma'am?
The autonomic exited ventral horn synapsed in spinal and autonomic ganglia, and can exit VPR or DPR.
That's exactly right. Well, the question was, the postganglionic axon, where will it go? It's going to go wherever it needs to go. And what you're going to learn is, a lot of the times it's going to follow this pathway, but you'll hear us talk about how autonomics oftentimes are hitchhikers. They're going to jump onto a nerve fiber, a blood vessel. They're going to follow any kind of pathway they need to follow to get to where they need to go. Okay? This is a very simplified version of showing you how they go, but they're going to go wherever they want to go. They'll find a way to get there. Yes, sir?
So the peripheral spinal cord is white matter, right? The central part is gray matter. Why is it that the axon and the lateral horns of the ganglia go through the gray matter, not just jump right out the white matter?
The question is, why don't the axons come out the... I don't know. Yeah, it's just how it is. Okay. That's one I can't answer for you. Yes, ma'am?
In the notes it says that the preganglionic neuron for the sympathetic nerves, they're cholinergic. So when they synapse in the autonomic ganglia, that is a cholinergic type of synapse.
Right. So, you know, everything's going to be a cholinergic synapse except for one exception. What's the one exception? Postganglionic sympathetics. And that's in the organ itself. All the ganglia are always going to be cholinergic responses. At the where the secondary response is different. So we call things, first off, make sure everybody understands, preganglionic, postganglionic. Why do we call it that? Okay, because this thing here is it's before the ganglion. Okay, so preganglionic, and then once it synapses here and goes off, it becomes a postganglionic structure. Yes, sir?
I don't get how it can be different lengths if they're both, are they both synapsing right there, the pre and...
Both what things?
Are the parasympathetic and sympathetic, do they both go to that same ganglia? So
I'm sorry, the answer is no. I get your confusion. All I tried to do was show you what autonomics do. Understand that if I've got things for sympathetics, say T1 to L2 of the spinal cord, that means if you do some easy, Matthew, there's going to be 14 sympathetic ganglia on each side of the spinal cord. So all my sympathetics will come off and go to those ganglia. Sympathetics only. The same thing is happening down at the sacral part of the spinal cord, S2 to S4, and my parasympathetics will come off at that level and go to 3 ganglia on one side, 3 ganglia on the other side to synapse there. So it's a great question. I apologize for not making it. There's only one or the other, not both. I don't have both parasympathetic and sympathetic going to the same ganglion. Sympathetics will go to a sympathetic ganglion. Parasympathetics go to a parasympathetic ganglion. Yes, sir?
Can you run through an example of cutting something?
Okay. If I cut there, what do I lose?
Sensory.
Huh? I lose everything. Autonomics. It's all going to get lost. Versus what happens if I cut there, versus if I cut there, cut there. I mean, just put a cut anywhere you want. What would you lose? I mean, that's basically what you got to think of. If you understand the concept, then you can imagine, if I cut a spinal nerve, and this is where I know people are going to say, well, was it before this thing or after this thing? Just think spinal nerve, and you'll be fine. Right there. Okay?
Do you lose autonomics as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Is that just everything to the dorsal side, or dorsal?
Yeah, if you cut here, that's a great point. I want to make sure people understand that. Thank you for asking that. Okay. I want you to understand, if I cut here, all I'm losing is any sensory, motor, autonomic, whatever, going to the dorsal, where that dorsal primary ramus is going. All my VPR material is still fine. This stuff still works if I cut here. Okay? And the way I try and get this, people to understand this, it's just like taking electrical cords, okay? If I had a lamp sitting out here, and my electrical wire, my electrical cord is going to go through like this, and go get plugged in right here, okay? These are all a bunch of electrical cords. If I cut these cords, well, nothing's happened to these electrical cords down here. They're still going to function fine, okay? If I cut here, well, I'm going to lose everybody. But if I'm cutting a VPR or DPR here, all I lose are the fibers in the DPR. My VPR innervation is still fine. Nothing the matter with it whatsoever. If I cut the spinal nerve, I'm going to lose both DPR and VPR. Yes, sir?
When you said you cut right there between the dorsal ganglia and the nerve, spinal.
This one?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
So
I'm going to lose all my sensory.
all your sensory.
All my sensory. Motor's still fine.
Okay, so but technically.
I'd lose all sensory innervation that this one particular nerve goes to. I'm not losing sensory from all over my body, just what that level that nerve goes to. And we'll teach about dermatomes soon. I'm not losing everything, just whatever that nerve goes to. Yes, ma'am?
So if I step on a tack,
Mm-hmm.
and I want, my foot wants to come up,
Uh-huh.
so it's gonna start in the dorsal root?
Well, actually where it starts is out of this, it's going to start at the periphery. It's going to start in the skin that's covering your foot. You step on a tack, that stimulation is going to come from your foot. And that stimulation from your foot is going to follow, say a VPR. It's going to come up, go to the spinal nerve, dorsal root. It's going to go through and synapse to the dorsal horn. Then motor will come out the ventral horn, go just like this, go right back out, go down to muscles in your leg to raise your foot.
So it'll go through the ventral primarily?
Mm-hmm.
The red is.
Here's the, pardon, not the dorsal? No, ma'am. What you're going to learn, again, we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit, okay? Monday, if you read this weekend, you're going to learn about muscles of the back. There's very few things that DPRs will provide motor innervation to, okay? DPRs are going to go to basically some true muscles of your back, and that's about it. A DPR is a very small structure. VPRs get everything on the ventral side and most of the musculature of your body. Okay? Right now, I don't even care.
Does it not have to do with dorsal and ventral, like how we can put this?
Well, somewhat. I mean, why would I guess you're trying to understand from me, why am I saying your foot is ventral?
No.
Okay. But, like I said, you're getting ahead of yourself a little bit, and I'm trying to get you to understand, don't worry about what DPRs and VPRs provide innervation to, because we're getting there. I'm saying, you're going to come in and learn Monday that DPRs will only innervate the true muscles of the back. VPRs will get everything else of the body, or cranial nerves will.
Like the back of my ankle would still be.
You got it.
Okay.
Why is it that way? I don't know. Okay? Yes, sir.
I just need to clarify, I'm sorry. I know you just answered it, but I didn't really understand. Okay, so when you cut that piece right there, if you don't have sensory, you can't have a certain kind of motor. You only have...
The motor's there and the motor functions fine, you just don't get the stimulation into it that's probably going to give you the information. You guys are splitting hairs on me. I'm trying to be real basic. You're trying not to be. I understand. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll come back to you. Go ahead.
Would it be easier to clarify that it's called the ventral because it's coming out the ventral side of the spinal cord?
The VPR,
what
the question is, can you make it easier to understand, because you're saying the VPR comes out the ventral side of the spinal cord. In essence, that's yes, but what you're going to see is VPR goes to the back as well as the front. If you want to say it's easier because it comes off the ventral part of the spinal cord, fantastic. If that helps you understand it, I love it.
Okay.
Okay? Because it's going to confuse everybody next week, because we're going to say there's some VPRs that innervate things back here. And you're going to think, how can a VPR go to the dorsal side of the body? But it's what it does. It goes dorsal and then it comes around to the body, to the front half. Hold on. Sarah.
Okay, with general sensory, they're one neuron system. What role does the cell body play in the dorsal root ganglia?
Okay. The question is, what role does this thing play in the dorsal root ganglia? Well, you've got to have your cell body somewhere.
Okay, so it's coming into the dorsal column ramus, like the axon.
It's coming from, let's say it's coming from either way.
Yeah.
from either ramus to the spinal nerve, comes up. Now the question, I know somebody's going to ask, why is it in the dorsal primary or dorsal root ganglion? Why isn't its cell body in the spinal cord? This is how it is.
So it doesn't stop at that cell body?
No, it's all one big thing. If I draw, and this is, I know somebody was asking this of Dr. Hutchins yesterday, and he kind of skirted past it. I'll give you the histological function, or way it works. We're going to learn motor neurons are what we call multipolar neurons. You may not want to know this, but here you go. Okay? And then there's some other neurons that we call bipolar. Bipolar meaning two. It's got typically an axon and a dendrite. Multipolar, multi things. So it's got lots of dendrites. Neurons only have one axon ever. So an axon, lots of dendrites. All right, so now, in development, and why I did this, don't ask me, because I don't know. You can take these bipolar neurons, and what happens is, if you take the cell body and shift it over, and then connect the dendrite and the axon, you get this thing. And so, our sensory neurons are what are called pseudo-unipolar neurons, false unipolar. Okay? The whole thing becomes an axon, and honestly, I know he made the big, but if it makes you feel good about some dendrites off the end of it, man, put some dendrites there. I don't care. Okay? If it helps you understand that that's how it's inputted in, and there it goes, there you go. But that's what this is. So a pseudo-unipolar neuron is what these sensory neurons are. And their cell bodies just happen to sit in a ganglion, dorsal root ganglion for our spinal nerves. This is a motor neuron that's coming off and going to a muscle of some sort. If I'm a autonomic neuron, what am I doing? I'm going to smooth muscle, cardiac muscle glands. Yes, ma'am?
But the pseudo-unipolar are going to be connected to receptor cells like in your skin?
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
Correct. Okay.
They're going. This end out here is skin.
So instead of synapsing like we would normally think of transducing.
What happens is these little ends right here get stimulated somehow. It could be what we call free nerve endings, Merkel cells, Pacini corpuscles, whatever. It's all kinds of little endings out here that will be detected like that. Yes, sir.
You have one axon, but it can branch, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
That's okay. That's all right. If it helps you understand it, that's probably, some people will know more than other people know, and the answer is yes. We're trying to simplify this so we kind of get a grasp of it. Okay? Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. With the autonomic.
Yes, Carla. What can I answer for you? Now you said the ma'am bit. Yeah.
When it gets to the autonomic ganglia, does it go back through the spinal cord or spinal nerve before it goes out, or is that even relevant?
You're saying from this up to there?
Does it go through the spinal nerve, or just go out through the ramus?
The answer is yes and no.
Okay.
So we're just going to leave that one alone.
Okay.
Depends on where the fibers are going. Yes, ma'am.
Earlier you said that if you cut the DPR, you lose everything. Does that mean that just for that particular accident you lose sensory and motor? You
would lose sensory, motor, and autonomic from whatever this nerve is providing. You're not losing everything in the body, just whatever, you lose all the innervation this DPR provides.
Okay. All right.
Sorry.
Perfect.
Yeah, I made a statement that confused.
I mean, it was confused.
I'll sit here and answer them all day long. Well, maybe not. I got to give a test at 1. What else? I'll go over some other things, but I just want to make sure everybody understands about this part. And like I said, understand, we're going to get spinal cord next week. And we do spinal cord, that's going to help with some of the things we're talking about today. That'll make some other things a little bit clearer. And then we're going to start doing some other autonomic stuff, and that'll make some of that stuff even more clear. You know, all this information builds upon itself. So even if you're still a little bit confused about some things, it's okay. You're where you need to be right now, and we're going to get you where you need to be by the end of the course. Okay? All right. If anybody wants to leave, I was going to talk a little bit about a couple things real quick. So,
we done?
some of you have some things on your 1-minute papers about some things about septs and some skull stuff and some other things. So I'm going to take a couple minutes real quick on that.